That's okay. You also encourage us about the importance of, democratizing, the resources as opposed to consuming more of natural resources and to ourselves and not involving others. You also mentioned the point about the importance of involving people who are more affected by climate change to be at the table so that they too could they incorporate their voices as what the solution ought to be, as opposed to having people just at the top making decisions without the involvement of the people that are most vulnerable to the issue of climate change. You also mentioned the point about Africans also have to admit that they are participating in denigration of the earth. And the other point is that I think is also very important is about data. You highlight that it's important for us to have we should record, how the climate is being affected by our activities. Thank you so much, Dr. Afolabi, for such an insightful presentation. We look forward to having a robust dialogue with you and our other presenters. Thank you.
Thanks, Yokem, for that. So I introduce Mr. Dennis Kange. Is a graduate of philosophy from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. He has had up to 10 years of extensive research and experience working with young people, students, and the public sector to create impactful outcome, especially in climate, health, education, social development. Dennis has a passion for active and sustainable mobility, which has led him to engage in numerous activities, including the 2020 World Bicycle Day webinar in partnership with Psychology Riding Club and then the United Nations Information Center. He has embarked on several campaigns too, in partnership with Lagos Urban Development Initiative, LUDI, for the celebration of the 2021 World Bicycle Days, among others. He's the founder of two startups, Aces Bikes Limited and Cycling Consultants International, which are all geared towards achieving an improved living environment through green transport system and integration of cycling into the built environment respectively. He's currently the program manager at the African Cycling Foundation, ECF, which operates in Lagos, and is in partnership with various other organizations like United Nations, Lagos State Park and Garden Agency, Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA, Lagos State Sport Commission, among many others. So his key area of competence include issues around climate, urban planning and management, monitoring evaluation, stakeholders engagement, mobilizations, and what he's doing today, talking about the output of all this engagement with people on the ground. So we're happy to have you here today, Dennis, and we'd like to listen now to your input on this issue on climate change in Africa. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fariola. It's wonderful to be in your midst today, the African Research Network. And I want to say a big kudos to Dr. Toby and Dr. Afolabi for that wonderful presentation that came before me. Incidentally, I'm not an academic like you heard, so mine is just going to be a little bit of what we're doing on the ground here in Lagos State to mitigate the impacts, the horrible impacts of climate change has come to be real. And for me, I'm taking it quite seriously because of the kind of work that we do. So I'm able to actually see things that ordinarily people will not see. And so I'm going to share my slides and then we talk through it together. Mine is going to be pretty straightforward. And I hope that at the end of the day, we're going to have some engagements with my co-academics or the academics here to be able to arrive at something much more resourceful to help us make impact. Okay, so I'll go straight up to this. So speaking to the topic of the day, climate change, African interventions to global threats. We argue that the bicycle is a veritable tool for combating the horrible impacts of climate change. So as we proceed, we're going to see that. This picture, I came across it in one of my works. It actually came from the World Bicycle Relief. It's an organization that really makes interventions using bicycles. But it cuts a very personal chord in me. It reminds me of my village, a remote village in Nigeria, Benue State, where this woman looks like one of these women just coming back from her day's activity. And I couldn't but use it to initiate my own slide of how the world was before we are now, where we're at a huge threat. We're at a huge threat of survival. And for me, the biggest threat from all that is being discussed, COP26, and what these great guys have just talked about now, is the unpredictability of the weather. So this, the doctors that have spoken before have already talked about the reality that we face in the climate change. But I just want to say that we experienced this in Lagos. This is November, and yesterday on my way to work, it rained heavily. There was no sign. You know, the fact that we have a lot of vehicles, a lot of fossil fuel burning, a lot of coal, have a lot of human actions that are contributing towards making global warming a reality. It's so scary. When I heard Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of UK, speak at the opening speech at the COP26, he talked about how serious this situation is, and he gave an analogy that it looks like a ticking bomb. That's how bad it is. We're heading towards that direction whereby we might, at the end of the day, have something very, very serious confronting us if we don't act and act now or act fast. Scenarios like this flooding took place in Lagos, somewhere that I know very well, in Mushi. Scenarios like this happen across different cities in the world. The impacts of climate change are real as a result of human actions that these things are happening. You know, hello? Okay, sorry about that. I had to. Okay. So if I can't give you a full screen, please bear with me so that we get this going. I'm using a makeshift computer since today is weekend and I couldn't really get the main screen, but please make do with it if you can see that. So talking about the seriousness of climate change and the impact, the horrible impacts, I always like to qualify it as horrible impacts because yes, it's real, and then it comes with a lot of unpredictability and the impact it gets to us. It was Bill Gates who said that if we want to understand the danger that confronts us with climate change, we should look at the COVID-19, the pandemic, the horrible impacts of the COVID-19, how it has ravaged communities across the world, how it has killed hundreds of thousands of people. We should look at those impacts of the COVID and spread it over a period of time, longer period of time. Then we can understand a bit of what we're actually, what's confronting us when we talk about the impact of climate change. You know, and it's happening globally, and it's a global phenomenon. It varies from region to region as far as what kind of impact we are faced with. It could be flooding, it could be heat waves, it could be drought, it could be, you just name it. But then it's so real, and then when it hits us, it's going to hit us real big, and that's why we're taking it so seriously. I'm taking it personal. And in Lagos here, one of the major causes of that is this. Among the high emitters of greenhouse gas is the vehicles. CO2 emission is something that we cannot escape in Lagos. It's so high. The transport sector, particularly the road transport sector, is one of the major contributors of global warming due to its high level of emissions. And for us, that is something very, very critical for us as more and more cars keep coming into Africa, keep coming into Lagos. So if you've been to the streets of Lagos before, I hope that Afolabi and Toby will relate to what I'm saying. There are several car ports all over the place. People come from all over Africa or even Nigeria to come buy cars. And if impacts are so huge as we will see in this. So this data is critical, talking about data. And like you heard when Austin was introducing me, we work with different agencies here in Lagos State for the past 4 to 5 years. We've been engaging with government agencies, private sector, United Nations Agency for Information, and many other agencies, Psychology Riding Club, Lagos Urban Development. And one of the central message still remains, or challenge still remains, that we do not have data to even constitute a baseline for us to even, take our work further. We need a baseline, but Lamata has done this. If you can see this, how many years ago? 2007, 2009.
Hello, Kange. We can't see the slides you are. We are still on slides 1. I don't know whether
really?
You can. Yes, that's where we have been.
Oh my God, you didn't call my attention and I've gone this far. Okay, let me see what I can do. Do I exit this? Because the other time I did this, I couldn't come back when we're doing the testing. Thank you for calling my attention, Austin. How do
you can just continue, but click on the slides where you are now. So you don't need to go towards full screen, but if you can just click on slides where you are.
So what slide are you seeing right now?
I'm seeing slide 1, the woman with a bike.
Oh, really?
Bicycle.
I've gone past that way. And you said I should click. I've clicked.
Okay, maybe you can stop sharing and reshare, and that may allow you.
Okay, so I've stopped.
So yeah, and reshare.
So I'll reshare.
Okay, and if you click on the slide where you had, without putting on slideshow, maybe if you just click on where you had, then. Okay, that takes us there. So we can manage like that without full screen. Thank you.
Oh, so this doesn't give you, when we do the slide share, it doesn't give you the movements. Like it doesn't take you on the progressions to the next slide.
Yeah, you can be using arrow key. You can just be going down like that.
Just like that.
Or okay. Clicking, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that. And okay, so yes, I was just trying to say that Lamata has provided us with some data around the dangers of the emissions that we get. So it says Lagos Air Quality Monitoring Study of 2007-2009 revealed that vehicles contribute approximately 43% of the total level of air pollution in Lagos. That is huge. We already know that the road transport is one of the major emitters, as mentioned earlier. But then this is actually mind-boggling. And that's not, if you think that's mind-boggling, look at the next point. It says over a quarter of the transport sector contribution to CO2 emissions in Nigeria comes from Lagos alone. And like I said earlier on, we've been having some unpredictable weather. And that's clearly living with horrible impacts. We have floods, I'm not talking of showers, I'm talking of real big time torrential rainfall. You've been following your weather. As at yesterday, Friday, it rained cat and dog here in Lagos. So like, it never used to be. So I know that some Lagos weather used to be like that for some reason because of the coastal areas and what have you, but there's a lot of industrialization happening in Lagos. There's a lot of all of this. And it was Boris Johnson again who said that if we don't take the impacts of climate change seriously now, our children are not going to be able to do anything. And that's kind of really touching. So that takes us to one aspect of what I do, which is working with African Cycling Foundation, and I'm the program manager. So what we do is to promote cycling at the grassroots. Major thrust is to get people cycling, everyone in fact, cycling for sustainable wellness, personal wellness, and environmental sustainability. And so we have a lot of programs that are geared towards driving our mission to its logical conclusion. So we're based here in Lagos, Lekki Phase 1, and then we work with a whole lot of other stakeholders just to make sure that a lot of people cycle. And our argument is that by opting for bikes, by riding bicycles, we can reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the transport system, which will slow the effects of climate change and reduce the risk of extreme and unpredictable weather. Like I keep saying, that unpredictable weather is one thing we need to contend with. Like the other fellows have spoken, I may not be talking about all the data and all that. That's for people to bring. I mean, the effects, the vulnerability, and all that. We know that these things are real, and there are evidence that, because even from the manufacturing of bicycles to the riding of bicycles, which is a clean mode of transportation and all of that, this will naturally help in mitigating and reducing the already trapped carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So one of the things we do is that education aspect that Dr. Afolabi talked about. Getting to educate students about the benefits of riding bicycle, not just as a hobby, not just as a sport, not just to aspire, but then impact that it will have in the environment, so that they can now grow up to want to imbibe it as a lifestyle. So have series of that. We have numerous. We've done it in Ogun State with the Bells Secondary School, a famous school. We've done it with Association of Private Educators in Nigeria, APEN. We've done with several districts. Now, Lagos State Education is divided into districts. We did with different districts, like 3 districts before the COVID. And that's, getting to really disseminate the message and even do events for them. So like I said, there's a clear evidence that bike travel results in drastically lower greenhouse gas emissions. Still talking about what we can do. We run a program for UBA staff. So on display here it's Mr. Kennedy Ozoka, who is the group managing director and the CEO of UBA, and some of the staff on one of the events. Of course, we can't load you with all the images of our interventions, but that shows you the level. So work with corporate organizations, try to get their staff not just fit and healthy, but okay to realize the benefits of switching between cars. At each point, the data academics will also help. When you drive over a kilometer, there's a whole number of, the numbers are there, of CO2 you emit. Usually the drivings we do are things that you could do within a short distance, what we call 15-minute city. Things you could walk or cycle to, but there are reasons why people don't do. So we get to engage with corporate organizations, and UB have been wonderful. So we hope that subsequently, and I also remember that in 2020, the United Nations theme for the World Bicycle Day was bicycles as driver of post-COVID-19 green recovery. And since then, it might interest you to know that they've not even created another theme for this 2021. So that was like a tall bite. We're yet to really finish chewing down. We're really doing a lot of stuff. We also have a program, Ride to School. We do that with Psychology Riding Club, who graciously provide funding for providing bicycles to students in remote areas, largely now because of remote areas and semi-remote areas of Lagos State, because the infrastructure is not yet there to get people riding to school. But this is like a pilot, which has been ongoing for the past 2 years or more, which we hope to replicate in the city when we now have infrastructure, as you're going to see in others. Like, so we have hundreds of people in Ekpe, Ibejuleki, and even a place called Debojo, for those of you who might know the terrain, who ride to school on daily basis. And it helps in the environment, you can see. And then we'll have a program called School Cycling Challenge. And again, the thrust to get young people on board is better, because many adults have lost the hope. I know 1,001 when they know that, oh, I work in the cycling industry, and then they tend to, oh, I want to ride, but it's not safe. Oh, but so excuses. But the young people, once you get them there, they graduate and they go to a bike shop to pick one bicycle. And so we do a program to create excitement for secondary school students. It's called Schools Cycling Challenge, whereby secondary school students, organize events for them to sport. It's like a whole, strictly for bicycles. There are a whole lot of events that are under the School Cycling Challenge. A major aspect of the whole thing is Lagos State Non-Motorized Transport Policy, NMT, which has really been big. Just in September, the Honorable Commissioner for Transport, Dr. Frederick Oladende, commissioned a committee that is to look into the unveiling of NMT in Lagos. And we happen to be part of that committee. But while we're in that committee to scale up what has started, there's been funding from GIZ to do dedicated walk paths. As you can see, this is just somewhere along St. Nicholas, that TBS area, and then all the way to King's College and all of that. This is just still within the pilot scheme that is going to be scaled up. The idea is that when you make the environment conducive for people to walk, for people to cycle, it discourages them from, or gives them the opportunity to want to take steps that are what? Environmental friendly. To cycle and then to walk, you know, it's a big step in reducing our human actions in degrading the environment, which is very big. A lot of what is causing all of this is our human actions, human activity. So this is one major infrastructure that is lacking within African cities. And here in Lagos, we've really been pushing. There are a lot of, Mr. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is doing a lot of road works, and then we've been advocating, you know, talking to him, seeing him, and he's really giving it a nod at different fora, but it's not easy to incorporate this into existing roads. But there are pockets of roads. One famous one is the Etios Regional Road, which is within the Lekki axis, that we're trying to see if we can get wonderful bicycle lane network that connects schools, supermarkets, and that's going to reduce because the traffic is enormous. So for us, I'm focusing on the transport sector, which contribute is a major emitter of greenhouse gas emission. Yeah, so other interventions within this sector are done by the following organizations: Psychology Riding Club is Nigeria's premier cycling club. They made up of executives and businessmen who come to ride on Saturdays and public holidays. It's a famous, like I said, the premier cycling club here in Nigeria. Our bike does bike share in some institutions here in Lagos. They also have launched, the recent one was launched at Alausa to encourage people to ride within the secretariat axis. And they're hoping to even get to Lekki Phase 1 and even scale it up. So there are a lot of interventions. This ecosystem of cycling is growing, and then there's that urgency to act within our own little sphere to mitigate the impact that we're already facing. And don't get it wrong, Barack Obama he said, we are nowhere near where we need to be in this. But if we continue to work and build up all our efforts, we can hope to get there before 2060, and hope to get to neutralize the global warming to 1.5 degrees. So then we have Ludi. Ludi has been very wonderful with research and other activities. And then the AZ Bike Korea and Girls Bike Club and other bicycle clubs is really growing, and we're looking forward to harnessing these various efforts and be able to get data that this thing is actually cutting down the CO2 in the atmosphere. So our call to action for all of this will be that we should start now. You know, we should jump onto a bike. I don't know if I were to ask us on this forum now, when last any of us rode on a bicycle. Okay, not to answer, but then we may just want to start that as a responsible, how did Afolabi put it, ethical response to all that we're facing. Just swapping your car for a bike ride might be something, and then it's going to be enjoyable for you to really want to do that. And then we're hoping that with all that is going on, you know, the financing, a lot of money that the so-called, you know, big nations, you know, they are the greatest emitters, and then Africa is just 4%. He was saying 3, but I saw 4 in my own little reading. So, but all of that, there's a lot of funding that is here and there that we could harness, and I'm hoping that ARN, with all that we're doing, can also, you know, we can hope to get to do something together. So this is the little bit we're doing, and that we can do much more when we come together and then jump onto our bicycle to do that. So I want to thank you for inviting me to share and for your audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dennis, for sharing this practical engagement with the issues around climate change. And I think I should leave the recap for Yokiam Dabali to take up, and we'll proceed from there to the panel.
Yes. Thank you, Brother Augustine, and thank you, Mr. Dennis, for such a encouraging presentation. Mr. Dennis reminded us that, you know, knowledge is something that can be useful, and this is one example to that. he highlights the point that through his cycling association that he's part of in Lagos, Nigeria, they're making a huge impact. Actually, it's called African Cycling Foundation, where they encourage school students, schools, they encourage the community, Lagosians, and Africans to do more cycling, because it's not only beneficial for the earth, Mother Earth, but it's also good for the body, for our health. So those are some of the ways that the foundation encourages all of us to participate. He also highlights the point that why is this important? It's important because it's within the context, especially of Lagos, you can feel it, the heat wave, the atmosphere is not okay, and it's unpredictable. So it's telling us that there is a problem, and it needs to be addressed. Just as Brother Dr. Afola Abiodun highlighted, it's an emergency and it ought to be addressed. And he also talks about the clubs, right? So the way to encourage more people to use bikes is by having clubs and encouraging Lagosians and other Africans to participate in cycling, so that they too can reduce the earth degradation. And he also calls for the importance of data. We need more data so that we know how is this, what they're doing is affecting, how is it doing positively, or they need to do more. And he also encourages us all to ride bicycles wherever we are around the world, to participate in taking care of Mother Earth. And I have to highlight to you though, Mr. Dennis, I don't ride bike, but I do walk. I'm known for, I've started working out since when I was 15 years old. So that's a long time. And that part of it has to do with the fact that because of, I enjoy working out, but, part of it is also to take care of the earth. So even when I get in a car, I have a very small car. Part of it is because I want to participate in taking care of Mother Earth. So I think that you're doing a great job. We appreciate you doing this. And now you put your foundation on the radar here for me, and I'm sure for all of us, so that we can all do better in taking care of Earth, and also ourselves, because this is also for our children. If we don't do it, then they'll have a lot of problems, as some of you have, as our panelists also highlighted in their prior presentation. Thank you for being here.